Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Duels. Today we're going to be taking a look at some interesting highlights from some gameplay I've been playing over the past couple of days. I'm sure most of you are looking at your calendar right now and noticing that it's April 1st, as long as I get this video out on time anyway, which is, you know, dubious at this point. Who knows? And you might be thinking, April 1st. When's he gonna pull back the veil and reveal that he's actually just playing some Magic Arena content? Well, the April Fool is me, because we're actually gonna be playing some Magic Duels today for the highlight for the 5K Q&A. I thought I'd go back for a little bit of a nostalgia trip and play the game that I was originally known for back on the channel. About 2 years ago, actually, I think we stopped playing this game and moved over to Arena. So I thought for the specialty of, you know, this 5K Q&A, we'd actually go back and see a little bit of an origin story. So I'm going to be playing some interesting decks, some highlights, I guess, from gameplay of decks that I built in the past. They are very interestingly built, to say the least, and they're probably some of my favorites. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the background gameplay, and I guess without further ado, let's get on to the Q&A portion of the video. If you're not interested in the Q&As about non-Magic related stuff, I'm going to be doing Magic first and then everything else after, so as soon as the Magic questions stop flowing, then, you know, that'll be your cue to go if you really don't want to hear about my life, I guess. But yeah, without further ado, let's do it. Alright, well, let's get on with the questions, shall we? Although I should mention as well that the decks that I'm playing today are decks that I actually have played on the channel in the past, and it's crazy how different my deck building style was back then. Even though Magic Duels does have the restriction of 1 rare, 2 mythics, 3 uncommons, 4 commons, how differently I decided to build decks. I've certainly improved, because some of my deck choices are questionable. I was actually giggling to myself when I looked over my old decks and going, wow, these are bad. These are bad. I don't know if it's that long since Magic Duels that maybe maybe it's good enough for the game, being that it's that deck building restriction, and I've played that much normal Magic that, you know, the differences between those decks make it look bad. Maybe it was good back then. I really don't know. I definitely built a lot of good decks, but good lord, do they look bad now. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the questions, shall we? The first one is from Monster Kai. Says, do you have a squeak commander deck in paper? I do not. I actually do have a Krenko Mob Boss commander deck, but it's not quite the same, obviously. Krenko Mob Boss being the 4-mana which taps to double the amount of goblins you have in play. Super fun commander deck to play around with, but it is no squee. I think by the time I'd actually built a squee list ready to purchase, my commander play group had kind of stopped playing commander, so I never actually bought it. But yeah, it's hidden somewhere in an archive. Mojoko, Tybalt Enthusiast, what's your favourite standard deck you've ever played and your least favourite? My favourite standard deck I ever played was an MTG Goldfish deck, actually, from Shadows of Innistrad, I think was the actual set release, or was it Eldritch? It must have been Eldritch Moon, I think. And it was a mono blue Brain in the Jar deck, which was built around Brain in the Jar, as you might guess, and chaining spells all the way up until you had Part the Water Veil and Rise from the Tides in the exact same turn. So you'd make a metric ton of zombies, take an extra turn and swing for lethal. I used to take that to my FNM all the time, and it used to get consistently second place, which was cool. I think at the time it was quite a casual FNM, and there was only one person who truly took it seriously, I'd guess. A friend of mine that went as well would take it quite seriously, but I don't think he ever really built a proper net deck. I think it was always homebrews, but there was one triad guy that would always bring like Mardu vehicles and things like that. Whatever the tier 1 deck at the time was, he'd bring it, and then obviously we'd all lose to him because we were trying to have fun and he was trying to win. But yeah, it is what it is. How were you introduced to Magic the Gathering? Funny story. It's not very funny at all, to be fair. I was probably around 10, give or take a couple of years, and I'd just gone to Portugal for my holidays, and I don't know why, but I ended up buying it must have been the Goblins versus Elves pre-con decks, something like that, because to this day I still find goblin cards hidden everywhere. It just, like, years on, like, finding weird pennies in random locations, I find goblin cards, like old siege gun commanders and things like that, just hidden around. But yeah, I bought a pack of that in Portugal, and I literally bought it because the art was very cool, which is typical for Magic the Gathering. But it wasn't for a long time until I actually even cared to know what those cards did. TFK365, what is your favourite card from an unset? My favourite card is Cheaty Face, and it is the greatest card that has ever been printed in Magic the Gathering, and you should all buy yourselves a copy, because just look at this card, look at the potential for good times it has. Just Cheaty Face, all day, every day, 10 out of 10 card, must print more. Kumagoro, is your favourite colour green? I've been attracted to your channel because I found so much green-based content. It's actually not, and I find that interesting that there's lots of green-based content. I like all the colours. I guess my favourite colour is probably blue, because I really enjoy building combo decks, and obviously combo decks at their heart are usually to do with interacting with your opponent's interaction, counter spells. So I do very much enjoy stopping my opponent from stopping me doing what I'm doing. So I guess it's mono blue in that sense. So yeah, for counter spells, they're just the best thing to help you when you're comboing. Favorite vintage card and expansion? I can't really answer the expansion part of that question, because I never really played back then. I used to play around core set like 2013 maybe, somewhere around there. I don't know. That's probably as far back as I really go, as far as like investing in expansions and things like that. So I can't really say about the expansion side of it. But my favourite vintage cards, if it's not in literal vintage sets, is probably Paradoxical Outcome, because that, when I was playing it in Standard, was absolutely awesome, just bouncing loads of mana rocks and then replaying them and drawing your entire deck. And it does see play in Vintage quite heavily, actually, so if we're talking cards that see play in Vintage, that's my answer. If we're talking actual Vintage cards, probably Argothian Enchantress, because I really like Enchantress decks, and they're just so fun to play. Slap down an Enchantress and then just play all the enchantments in the world, draw your entire deck. Can you tell what I really like doing? Yeah, so that's my answer to that one. Next question. What was your first Magic deck you played? My first Magic deck was probably a green-white Boggles deck. It's probably Boggles. I called it Enchantress at the time, but it's not really the Enchantress style, it's more Boggles. It used... what's that lady? It was a 3-mana 2/2 that gets +2/+2, I think, something like that, for each enchantment you have in play, something like that. And I used to just suit her up and make her impossible to kill, and that was the first deck as well in my playgroup that got banned, because everybody's casual decks just could not deal with untouchable, huge trampling lifelinkers. Understandably so. I don't think we really played board wipes during that time as well, so it was very hard for my friends to deal with that deck. But yeah, we're probably the green-white enchantments deck, and it was probably the best one that I built at the time. Next question. Are you the sort of player who appreciates when people point out plays that you could have done better? Yes. Yes. Sort of. There's a way to go about doing that. I definitely appreciate criticism, and I can take criticism. I think when it comes to like the Magic community, there are a fair few people who are incapable of critiquing your plays in a nice way. And it's kind of hard to interpret that when I'm looking at text specifically. And this is kind of coming down to like YouTube comments, because if it's Twitch, honestly, like the backseating on Twitch is great. Never really have a problem with the backseating on Twitch whatsoever. If someone quizzes me on a misplay I made, it's easy enough to like go back into the VODs, be corrected, and then have a little bit of a friendly conversation. But YouTube comments, for the most part, can be positive, but there's always that one person who calls you an idiot for getting it wrong. Why didn't you do this, 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 and this, and this, and then you would have won, or something like that. I make punts all the time. I never hide from those punts. I play for the fun primarily, so I'm never really trying to better my play, I guess. I probably should, but I never am. So when you get like new people coming along who have maybe come from like watching content creators who are all about making the perfect plays every time, and I'm more about deck building side of things. I like to build fun decks rather than pro playing, because I wouldn't build the decks that I do if I was interested in winning for a start. That's pretty much like third or fourth on the list of things I want to do when Magic's involved. But yeah, I do enjoy criticism is where I'm going to round it out, and I appreciate everybody who leaves the comments. Keep doing it. Nothing I've just said there should deter you from leaving those messages, but just kind of, if you are going to leave one of those messages, keep in mind how that message is going to be received, because it's kind of hard in text form to receive it the way that you think you're sending it. Sometimes it can come across as a bit dickish. But other than that though, really appreciate it, and I try to answer all the comments whenever I can. Quinn asks, if you could ban a card in Standard right now, what would it be and why? In brackets, yes, 3 fairy counts. Well, Quinn, you've made my answer very easy, because number 1 on my list would be 3 fairy. I think that it absolutely ruins the fundamentals of Magic. I didn't sign up to Magic to play Hearthstone. I'd like to play on both my turn and my opponent's turn, and have them play on my turn and the opponent's turn. Sometimes I use Teferi because honestly it's one of those you can't beat them, you have to join them situations. Teferi kind of unfortunately has to be a part of Magic until the end of time now. If I could ban that card, I would absolutely do it in a heartbeat. Other than that though, that's a tough one. Honestly, I can't think of anything. I'm pretty sure like virtually all the War Planeswalkers were a mistake. So I'd probably start with Narset in second, and then Nissa Who Shakes the World. I think the entire War set has ruined Standard, personally. It's ruined it for me. Some people might be enjoying it. I sure as hell am not enjoying War of the Spark. It was probably one of my most hyped sets, but those cards are just stupid and they shouldn't exist. And it kind of saddens me to think that when I get to Pioneer, which is probably one of my most anticipated things that Magic's going to be doing soon, for Magic Arena, it saddens me to know that Teferi is going to be legal in that set after it's rotated out of Standard and we can have fun again. But yeah, that's probably my answer. Every War of the Spark Planeswalker. Nintendo64 says, what is your favourite colour combo in Magic? Well, my favourite colour specifically was mono blue, I guess. My favourite colour combo is probably Orzhov. I really enjoy, and I've done this a fair few times on the channel, I really enjoy building like control variants of Orzhov. I think it's a lot of fun to explore control outside of blue, where it's all about the interactivity of the decks, just removing things and finding neat ways to gain card advantage over your opponent, which is something white and black doesn't do very well. I find that a very interesting deck building restriction, and I have a lot of fun building that kind of thing. So probably Orzhov, and there's also a lot of really cool cards that come out of that color combo as well. Athreos being like up there in recent memory. So that's probably my answer. Alright, Blue Taste has asked me a few questions. I could probably answer them all. What format outside of Arena do you like the most? I'm really digging Pioneer at the moment. I enjoy watching Pioneer content whenever I can. I'm basically building Pioneer decks as we speak for when it drops on Arena, but I'm going to be holding those until the set comes. I've got a very long list of Pioneer decks I want to be building, so the day that drops is going to be the day that daily content just keeps going. I will not run out of ideas for a very long time, just based off of what I've built there. Other than that though, really enjoy EDH. I like the casual format specifically, so yeah, I mean, Brawl is my EDH light at the end of the day, so Commander, Pioneer, probably tied in number 1. Favorite legendary card /S cards. My favorite legendary card is Squeak the Immortal. Number 3, are you planning to play any other card games in the future? I wouldn't rule it out, but no. is probably the simple way to put it. For those who've been on the channel for a long time, you'd know that back in the day I used to be kind of a variety channel with magic on the side. I tried doing that. It just does not work for the YouTube algorithm these days. So to split my audience into a different card game, it's probably not something I'm looking to do for a very long time, until maybe YouTube changes its ways and that actually works out. But yeah, I don't know. I still play other games for fun. Played a fair bit of Legends of Runeterra for a while, and I was looking to make content on that, but I've kind of stopped playing it recently. I haven't played it in weeks. It's not that I don't like the game. I still really enjoy the game itself. I think it's a great game, but I don't know. I just don't really have the time for other card games. Like, doing Magic the Gathering content is a heavy investment, and maintaining multiple collections from separate games is not particularly easy, even though Legends of Runeterra does have kind of a really, really good monetization system. You could probably make a full collection in that game fairly easy, and I was maintaining that for a long time, but I realized that balancing two collections that I wasn't really going to be making content on just wasn't really going to work out. So no, but you might see some on Twitch from time to time. I like to keep Twitch, like my variety content, still going there, but for YouTube it's purely Magic the Gathering, and probably will be for the foreseeable future. Shard asks, which squee is the best squee? The best squee is Squee the Immortal, because other squee is not as versatile. I could put Squee the Immortal into any deck and justify it. I don't know if I could do the same with the other squee. Squee the Immortal, I think, is just infinitely better than the original squee. But yeah, it's got to be Squee the Immortal. My immortal son, after all, deserves all the attention. TFK365 asks, if you had to eat one magic card, which card would it be? Probably a food token. Easy answer. But if I'm more specific, it would be the food token with the curly banana on it, so I could eat it all sexy-like for the camera. Alright, so that's going to be, I think, the end of Magic-related questions. We're on to life questions now, I guess. So if you're not interested in Magic, it's probably going to be, I don't know. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Actually, I do have a few Magic content questions coming up, but there's only like one or two. So if you're not interested in everything else, thank you very much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that jazz. And moving on. What kind of music do you listen to? And do you have any favorite bands or songs? Good question. I listen to pretty much everything. If you've ever joined a Twitch stream that's Magic related, I actually play the music that I enjoy on those streams. So if you really wanted a vast answer to that question, just join one of the Magic streams. Usually they happen on Wednesdays specifically, and then I try to do one on the weekends. I'm trying to figure out a schedule for all of that as well, for anyone curious, but Wednesdays are usually the stream time for Magic. Thursday is going to be the next Magic stream, because I actually pushed it forward to make this video. So if you come and tune in to Magic tomorrow, link down in the description below to that, you'll get a full blast of the music that I'm interested in. But yes, I will listen to virtually anything, so anything from old school, like 1920s gypsy rock all the way to deathcore metal. But my favourite band is Coheed and Cambria, however you want to pronounce it. And if I could recommend a song from that band to get you into it, because Coheed and Cambria is it's an interesting one. It's prog rock, so it's not for everyone. Some songs that I would recommend. My favourite song from Coheed and Cambria is probably The Final Cut. And then I would recommend not only that song, but Welcome Home and Mother Superior as some introductions to the band, so go check them out. They're an absolutely awesome band, and I saw them live last year. Next question from Azael the Dreamer. What's your favourite animal and why? My favourite animal, well, the easy answer is dogs. Love dogs. Better than cats. But I love every animal. It's probably my secondary passion past video games is animals. I don't really keep that many these days, but I used to keep a lot of reptiles. I've had fire-bellied toads, leopard geckos, bearded dragons. I have one right now. What else have I had? A tortoise at one point. That was kind of loaned to me, though. We didn't keep that one for very long. I've had all sorts, to be honest. But I guess my favourite animal is probably the praying mantis, because they're really sweet. An green Asian praying mantis. Usually the big, boring green ones, but they get huge. I just really enjoy watching them, because they are fascinating little things. They're very attentive. They're almost like little puppy dogs, even though they are bugs. And then watching them eat. Ooh, watching them eat is fascinating, but it'll make you feel bad for whatever food you put in there, because they are not nice eaters whatsoever. They eat them alive, and they usually... for those who are squeamish, just skip ahead 30 seconds. They usually start by eating the legs so that they can't fight back. And then the last time I saw a praying mantis eat something, because I don't have any right now, they ate the legs and then they started with the face after that. So, yeah, brutal eaters. Next question. Did you ever play YuGiOh? Yes, I did play YuGiOh. I used to play it alongside when the TV show was running on... What did it play on? I don't even remember the name of that channel anymore. Yeah, it used to play a lot of that when I was very little, and I used to buy the cards to go with it. Had a pretty reasonable collection. I had a few of the Egyptian god cards, I think, which I believe they're actually worth a pretty penny. But they went missing, and I presume that a certain someone, mother, probably spotted those cards while I was not living there, and decided they probably weren't worth anything and threw them out. So yeah, I definitely had a fair few expensive cards. I'm not actually sure if I had any of the original like Blue Eyes White Dragons. I know I had one of them. But yeah, used to play a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! There was a Game Boy Advance game that I used to play all the time, and I still occasionally go back to it to this day. But I could never really get into the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. Like, I think Egyptian God cards were probably like the most recent set that I ever invested in. Now there's like tuna cards and stuff like that, and I have no idea what any of it means. It's all gibberish these days. But yeah, I used to play a fair bit. ZebbAdduce asks, what's your favourite game of all time and why is it RimWorld? RimWorld is up there. I haven't played RimWorld in a long time though, but my favourite game of all time is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and it's a game that I actually played recently on the channel. I know I said earlier that I didn't play non-Magic games on the channel anymore, but I felt that one was an exception. I played that one on stream, and I thought it'd be a nice send-off to the channel, the old channel anyway, that used to be a variety channel, because it felt a bit weird that I'd played all these games, but I hadn't played my favourite game of all time. So you can go back and find my full stream playthrough of Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, and if you want to see all of like the Easter eggs in that game, then I'm almost an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to that game, so highly recommend checking it out if you are remotely interested in Metal Gear, and it's the most accessible one as well. You do not need to know anything about Metal Gear going into it to enjoy that game. The Mighty Mike asks, what keeps you motivated to keep creating content? Honestly, you guys? Sounds cheesy, but yeah, I just really enjoy the deck building aspect of it. It's something that I'd love to do full time if I could, and right now I currently am for obvious reasons. That we won't really go into because I might get demonetized just for mentioning the words. Not really sure about that one, but yeah, for obvious reasons, I'm full-time making YouTube content right now. But yeah, it's really like the feedback I get on videos. Meeting you guys is absolutely awesome. Love chatting to you guys. If you haven't yet done so, go to the Discord. I'm very active on the Discord, so if you want a community that chats quite frequently, but is not like overwhelmingly full, go join that. It's honestly, the community keeps me coming back. I really enjoy chatting to you guys, discussing the fun things that you guys are getting up to, getting the decks that you create sent over to me so I can see what you're all interested in, and you know, yeah, just the community. Feels cheesy, but that's the honest answer. Next question from CMarys. Oh god. Hey Tom, Can I have $800? Well, firstly, CMarys, e-begging is my job, so, you know, back off for a start. The better question would be, though, can you give me $800? And the answer to that would be yes, CMarys. My Patreon link is down in the description below. Next question, Battlecry 1986. Do you say biscuits or cookies? I say both. In England, at least, cookies and biscuits are kind of different things. When you think of cookies, it's like the chocolate chip variant, and then biscuits are more like the solid digestives, I guess. I don't know if that's something that translates to Americanisms and whatnot. But yeah, cookies and biscuits to me are different, so it depends on the type of biscuit or cookie, I guess. Asui. This is a question I get asked a lot, actually, so let's answer it, shall we? Why no Facecam, and can we expect one? So, let's dive deep into this particular question. I'll start with, can you expect one? Yes. Yes, eventually I will do a Facecam. I will do a face reveal. I've not decided when that's going to be yet, but for now, probably not. Why no Facecam? I like my privacy, is basically what it comes down to. I like to keep myself a little bit private. Some things, I don't know. I don't consider myself a bad-looking guy, but it's one of those things where I don't... And I'm going to get comments countering this, and I know I am going to get the comments, because honestly, like, you could counter anything I say with something anyway, and it'll make sense. But I don't personally see too much value in a face cam when it comes to YouTube content specifically. I don't knock anyone who does it, but for me personally, I don't know. I don't feel it adds a great deal to my content. And this is where I'll get the comments saying, well, this is the value that it adds. And I know you guys want to see my face, and eventually I will show my face. I think I'll probably only do Facecam for Twitch, realistically. I don't know if I'd ever do Facecam for YouTube. But there's a lot of setup involved as well. And when it comes to my content creation, I like to work in the evenings when it's dark. And I don't know, I usually sit in the dark as well, which means I need to buy myself a lighting setup and a green screen and all that stuff. So it's a lot for just the occasional showing of my face, I guess, because I wouldn't want to half-arse it. I wouldn't want to just give you like a really awful webcam looking thing. I'd like to have like a full setup, a decent streaming face cam of some sort. I don't know whether that'll be like DSLRs or just like really high quality face cam, webcam or something like that. Not really sure, but for now, no. In the future, yes. Russell asks, Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Wars, but only because I never really watched Star Trek. It's probably been out too long for me to go back and watch it, honestly. It's not like... It's one of those things I don't really have the nostalgia that allows me to look past like things that have poorly aged. Not to say that Star Trek has aged poorly, maybe it hasn't, I don't know. But it's one of those where you're like, it's so old you can't really enjoy it, the same way that like games you played when you grew up you could enjoy. But I should also mention as well, even though I am picking Star Wars, I also don't like Star Wars. Past the original trilogy, everything after that is absolute hot garbage and does not exist in my eyes. So, yeah, the first 3 Star Wars films, 4, 5, and 6 specifically, are pretty great. I enjoy those 3 films quite a lot. Every other one after that, not worth my time. Green Boots asks, what made you want to do YouTube? That would be a crossroads in my life, I guess. Essentially, the first time I thought about doing YouTube was towards the end of secondary school, when you're thinking about... or high school, I guess, for English, non-English people. I was starting to think about universities and what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I always knew that I wanted to be in the game industry in some form or another. And I remember thinking on one day in particular, and it's still a memory in my mind, thinking, should I start doing YouTube content now? And I remember thinking to myself, I could never do that. It would never go anywhere, so I'm just going to drop it right then and there. So instead of going into content creation when it comes to the video game industry, I ended up going to university for games programming. And for the first year and a half, I really enjoyed myself, had a lot of fun. And then for multiple different reasons, I fell out of love with that kind of industry. It wasn't for me towards that point, and yeah, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. I did stick it out though. I did get my bachelor's degree because I knew I'd probably regret not finishing it, and I'm not one of those people who quits halfway, so I stuck with it even though I absolutely hated it. It was probably the worst 2 years of my entire life, was finishing that course. But I met loads of wonderful people as well. I'd never actually take that back. If I didn't go to that university, then a lot of my best friends now just would not exist to me. So yeah, I paid for friends, let's put it that way. That was the one good thing to come from university. But yeah, after that, I didn't know what to do with myself, to be honest. And then I thought back to that day when I was like, I would never be able to do YouTube. And I just decided, well, what happens if I just do it? What happens if I just do it, and if nothing comes of it, I'll move on. And if something happens, then I'll power through it. And that's exactly what I did. I booted up Magic Duels, I hit the record button. You can go back and watch the very first video, because watching it back is a little bit cringeworthy. I feel like I've changed a fair bit since that particular video. There's lots of misplays in that video, so in many ways I haven't changed. But yeah, it was just one of those things. I booted it up and I found that I just really enjoyed myself doing it. I got to be part of the games industry. I got to play something that I was very passionate about at the time, and I just, my community took off quite quickly as well. I got a lot of subscribers, lots of views, and it just kind of validated what I was doing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt good about what I was doing. So that's why I wanted to do YouTube, because I wanted to pursue a dream that otherwise I had already convinced myself I couldn't do. So yes. And now here we are, 5,000 subscribers up. It's not ideally where I'd want to be, but I'm still happy that we managed to get to 5k. And we're growing quite steadily as well, up to that 10k mark. Hopefully we can get there. Well, probably not by the end of this year, but you never know. There's a little bit of luck involved when it comes to Magic the Gathering content creation on the internet. You just got to get picked up, Someone's got to spot you, someone's got to share your videos, but that all comes down to me making the right video to be shared, things like that. Next question, do you have time to watch other Magic the Gathering content creators? Yes and no. Yes, I do tune in on occasion to check out what everybody's up to, but ultimately I don't really stick around for too long. It's quite time consuming making Magic content, but between like renders and stuff like that, sometimes I can boot up a video while it's rendering and my computer can handle it a little bit. So I guess this is kind of a moment where I could shout out the content creators that I recommend. Like number one's probably like MTG Goldfish. They were the channel that inspired me to make the content that I made. Instead of going into like tier 1 lists all the time, I ended up going into like my own little niche, and it was MTG Goldfish that kind of inspired me to do that, because they don't play tier 1 decks all the time. Sometimes they do, and Seth is a very, very good Magic player, 10 times better than I'll ever be, I imagine. So yeah, I just really enjoyed everything that they were doing. And when you start out a YouTube channel, you always have to find that one content creator that inspires you, and it's definitely MTG Goldfish that did that for me. Other content creators though, if we're talking Twitch, Adamant MTG is very, very good at introductions for Magic players. So if you're new to Magic and you want to learn a fair bit more about it, or somebody who might be interested in doing that, I highly recommend checking out Adamant MTG over on Twitch. Thelona as well. We were a collabing team for quite some time. Very much enjoy all of his content. He's doing some streaming when he can, but I think his YouTube stuff's a little bit on the back burner right now. Who else? I enjoy watching Jim Davis MTG as well. He does play a little bit of like the homebrew kind of jank thing from time to time, but that's usually like the user submitted decks. But yeah, Jim Davis is probably where I go for like my spiky moments. I do enjoy watching a little bit of Legacy from time to time, so Andrea Mengucci's Legacy videos over on Channel Fireball are really fun to watch. I honestly probably will never play Legacy, but I just really enjoy watching Mengu do his thing on Legacy, and that's probably the main reason why I know what's going on in that format. But honestly, like, in general, I don't really watch MTG content. When you do something for work quite a lot of the time, you end up not wanting to come home and do it, you know what I mean? So, you know, a lot of the times what I do is I end up watching animal channels. As I mentioned earlier, like, my secondary passion is the animal kingdom, as it were. So, like, my biggest viewing time is dedicated to things like The Dark Den, which is all about, like, tarantulas and other exotic animals and things like that. And then there's Chandler's Wildlife, who has venomous reptiles as well. That's pretty interesting to watch. He's got a king cobra, and it's a beautiful thing. I absolutely love that animal. So I get to enjoy animals vicariously through these people that I might not otherwise own. And then the king of DIY as well, who's a fish keeper. So there's a lot of exotic fish, giant arowanas and things like that. I just really love animals. So, you know, the majority of my time is actually, on YouTube anyway, is spent watching animal channels. Next question, what are the chances of you going full-time? Do you see it plausible, or are you still too small for that? I'm definitely still too small to go full-time. However, as it currently stands, I am literally a full-time content creator for obvious reasons. So yeah, I get to, for the next 3 months, enjoy the feeling of being full-time, because I've got nothing better to do. YouTube right now is my full-time job. It is literally the only thing that pays me any money whatsoever. YouTube and Twitch, I guess. Combined, and Patreon, obviously. So yeah, I'm currently a full-time YouTuber, but once the lockdown kind of goes away, then I'm gonna be probably job hunting once again. So yeah, chance of me actually going full-time, I'd like to say it's high, because I'm never gonna quit. So, you know, it's like 1,000 typewriters and 1,000 monkeys. Eventually one will make Shakespeare. If I keep making this long enough, then eventually I'll make it. That's my perspective anyway, so I'm not going to quit. So my chance of going full-time, 100%. There you go. Alright, next question. Speaking of exactly that, what do you do for a living outside of YouTube? And also, I guess we could ask the next question at the same time. Pixie Storm wants to know, do you ever wear the costumes from your shop and prance around the house while playing video games? So, yeah, that kind of gives away what I do. I actually work for a costume company who sells fancy dress, or, you know, if you want to go as the Joker to your party, things like that. I work for the shop that kind of produces and sells prepackaged versions of that, and I work on the website side of things a lot of the time. So that's what I do for a living. And do you ever wear the costumes from your shop and prance around the house while playing video games? No, but from time to time I have been known to take said costumes and accessories and do interesting things with them. I have in the past gone on vacation with a Borat mankini and worn that instead of swim shorts for the vast majority of the holiday. I also have, oh god, once this is on the internet, it never comes off the internet, but screw it. I actually have a silver sparkly thong, which I wore to, I think, Gran Canaria, something like that. Maybe it was Portugal, I don't know. With the sole intent of wearing it to sunbathe so that it would burn the thong into my skin. So, yeah, for a laugh. So yeah, I guess I did take some pictures, so here's a wonderful picture of my arse crack. At the same time that I was doing that as well, I also took some black electrical tape and then wrote some stuff on my skin for the lulz. So enjoy that. That's never coming off the internet. Oh god, I'm gonna have to live with that one for the rest of my life. Alright guys, well that is gonna do it for the 5K Q&A. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions, leave them down in the comment section below. I'll try to answer as many as I can answer, and I'll probably come back to this for like a week on, so keep asking them questions. If you want to know anything, I'm usually an open book, so you can ask me virtually anything you want. Hopefully like the showing of my arse and things like that is enough of a indication to know that I'll pretty much answer any question you give me with complete transparency. But yeah, thank you very much to everybody who got us to this point as well. 5,000 subscribers. was not a thing that I thought I would ever get to initially. I know all the content creators say it, but all the content creators mean it. A lot of them should probably be making content with the expectation that nothing will really come of it. And as I say, kind of passion project. That was certainly something that I did. I did it because I didn't really know where I was going to go. And thanks to you guys gave me a little bit of purpose. So, you know, this is something that I get to work on in my off time, and it brings me the absolute most joy to my day every day of the week. So thank you to everybody who's allowed my dreams to be a reality, I guess. But yeah, that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed the background gameplay. Hopefully I answered enough of your questions. And thank you very much, guys. Take care.